Can you stand up and walk? Let me see. Let me see.
You want to see me walk?
Yes. Are you walking normal?
Watch me walk.
You're walking normal. Oh, come back, come back, come back.
I'm so upset with Daniel right now. This is our first full day together, and I'm seeing this whole other side to him. The way he's behaving is giving off warning signs.
The moment the judge read the verdict, the room went still. Daniel stood there, shoulders tight, face set in that familiar half-confident expression he'd worn for months. Then the word landed. Guilty. Misappropriation of funds. $800,000. Not missing. Not misunderstood. Gone. You could almost feel the shift in oxygen. A fine. Restitution 1 year in prison. For the first time since this scandal began, Daniel wasn't controlling the narrative. The court was. And the number echoed louder than anything else. $800,000. That wasn't just a failed investment. That was someone's life savings, someone's future, someone's belief wired away in a single transfer. Lisa sat there listening as if the world had slowed down around her. The same man who once promised her global offices, investors, and international contracts was now being led away under a criminal judgment. The empire he described never existed, but the consequences did. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this didn't explode quietly. Weeks before the arrest, Daniel stood proudly in front of friends, cameras, and a growing online audience and announced he would marry another woman. The Nigerian woman Lisa had discovered in hidden messages. The one whose name kept appearing in late-night notifications. He didn't whisper it, he declared it. That announcement wasn't just a breakup. It was a public humiliation. So ask yourself something. Why would a man about to face legal scrutiny move so boldly? Why would he go public unless he believed he was untouchable? Was it arrogance? Was it confidence that Lisa would never fight back? Or was he convinced the business story would hold up under pressure? And here's the harder question. Was Lisa completely blindsided, or did she see signs and choose not to see them? Because $800,000 doesn't disappear overnight. It leaves traces. It requires trust so deep that doubt feels like betrayal. She transferred that money believing she was building a shared future. But trust can blur logic. When someone you love speaks with certainty, ambition feels contagious. Skepticism starts to feel disloyal. That's where ego quietly enters the room. Daniel's ego may have told him he could manage two realities at once. A fiancé funding his dream. A secret relationship promising something new. He may have believed he was smarter than the situation. Lisa's ego may have told her she wasn't the type to get scammed. That she was investing, not gambling. That love and business could coexist because she chose wisely. And now here they are. One in handcuffs, one in shock, both exposed. But the verdict only answers part of the story. It confirms money moved. It confirms deception. It confirms legal consequence. It does not answer intention. Did Daniel ever plan to build a real company? Or was the dream always just a vehicle? Where exactly did the money flow once it left her account? And why didn't Lisa demand proof before wiring a fortune? Because before the arrest, before the public humiliation, there was one decision that changed everything. And it wasn't Daniel's. Before there were court dates and prison sentences, there was a pitch. Not a sloppy one. Not a desperate one. A polished, confident, almost cinematic pitch. Daniel didn't just describe a business. He described scale. International partners, offices with glass walls, investors flying in for meetings, profits that would multiply. He spoke in specifics just long enough to feel real, then zoomed out before details could be examined too closely. That's important. He didn't overwhelm Lisa with paperwork, he overwhelmed her with vision. And vision is powerful when someone is craving stability. Lisa wasn't just looking for romance. She wanted partnership. She wanted something solid, a shared future that felt impressive, a relationship that didn't just survive but elevated her. Daniel tapped directly into that need. He framed the opportunity as something they would build together, not his company, their empire. He positioned her money not as funding, but as belief, as proof that she trusted him, as proof that she was different from the doubters. That subtle shift matters, because once money becomes emotional validation, questioning it feels like questioning love. Friends raised concerns. They asked basic questions. Where's the office? Who are the investors? Can we see contracts? But Lisa didn't see them as protecting her. She saw them as doubting him. And if she defended him hard enough, maybe it would prove she was loyal. This is where things get uncomfortable. Was Daniel intentionally manipulating her? Or was he simply ambitious and reckless, believing he could figure it out later? The business description started changing slightly. different timelines, new partners mentioned, delays explained by confidential negotiations, still no physical office, still no formal presentation. But the language stayed confident, always confident. Confidence can override evidence. Then came the transfer. Lisa sitting in front of a screen, the number staring back at her. $800,000, her savings, years of work, security. With one click, it moved from her account to his control. She hesitated. Of course she did. Anyone would. But hesitation loses power when someone you love is reassuring you in the background. This is for us. That phrase is dangerous when money is involved. And here's the part that rarely gets examined. Right after the transfer, transparency began fading. Updates became less frequent. Proof became harder to access. The big investor meetings were always happening somewhere else. Documents were always being finalized. Why was there never a simple visit to a physical space? Why were details always just out of reach? And another question that changes everything. During this period of confidence and transfers, was Daniel already emotionally invested elsewhere? Was the Nigerian woman already part of his life while Lisa was wiring her future? Because if that's true, the $800,000 wasn't just funding ambition, it was funding a parallel reality. Lisa defended him fiercely. Against friends, against logic, against her own instincts. That kind of defense doesn't come from stupidity. It comes from emotional investment. If the business failed, it meant she misjudged him. And that's harder to accept than risk. So was this romance, or was it a transaction disguised as love, where emotional support and capital became interchangeable? The money left Lisa's account, and almost immediately, something else started disappearing. The shift didn't happen in one dramatic explosion. It started with small interruptions, a phone buzzing past midnight, Daniel stepping outside to take calls he once would have answered openly, weekends that suddenly required urgent meetings. At first, Lisa tried to stay rational. International business means odd hours. Investors live in different time zones. That explanation works until it doesn't. Patterns started forming. The calls weren't random. They clustered around the same hours. The disappearances weren't unpredictable. They landed neatly on weekends. And Daniel's tone changed. Less excitement about the business. More irritation when questioned. The man who once overshared every ambitious detail now guarded his screen like state secrets. Suspicion isn't loud at first. It whispers. Then came the messages. Not business language. Not contract. Not investor updates. Intimate words. Plans. Affection. A name that kept appearing. A woman from Nigeria. Travel dates that lined up too neatly with those unexplained absences. Hotel receipts tucked into jacket pockets. The story Daniel told about boardrooms and negotiations started collapsing under something much more personal. And here's where the power dynamic flipped. Until this point, Daniel had controlled the narrative. He was the visionary, the confident builder. But once Lisa saw those messages, she wasn't the trusting partner anymore. She became an investigator, calm, observant, quietly collecting proof, and Daniel sensed it. Instead of shrinking under exposure, he did something unexpected. He went public. He announced his engagement to the Nigerian woman openly, almost defiantly. No shame, no hesitation. That move shocked people. Why double down unless you believed you could survive it? Why risk public outrage unless you felt insulated somehow? Some fans argued the business simply failed and Daniel moved on emotionally. Others saw a calculated strategy. Use Lisa's money to elevate himself, then pivot publicly once a new relationship offered something different. And critics weren't gentle toward Lisa either. Questions surfaced about her own legal marriage status, about past relationships, about whether she had been fully transparent from the beginning. That's when the story stopped being clean, because moral clarity started to blur. Was Daniel a manipulator? Or a reckless opportunist who spiraled? Was Lisa entirely blindsided? Or were there secrets on both sides? Then the cultural layer intensified everything. The meeting with the traditional monarch wasn't just ceremonial. It exposed tension. The monarch questioned Lisa's loyalty directly. Her nervous laughter was seen by some as disrespect. Others thought she was simply uncomfortable. Daniel appeared tense, even cornered. In that room, he wasn't the dominant storyteller. He was a man seeking approval. Did that moment pressure him further? Did it expose cracks he couldn't manage? And the biggest question sitting underneath it all. Did Lisa's $800,000 quietly support more than ambition? Did it fund travel, gifts, gestures that built Daniel's other relationship while she believed she was investing in infrastructure? The audience split sharply. Some defended Daniel. Some defended Lisa. Some concluded they were both playing versions of each other. But here's what matters. When Lisa found the messages, she didn't explode publicly. She didn't scream online. She didn't collapse in front of cameras. She started documenting. And that shift, that calm transition from heartbreak to strategy, is where the real escalation begins. Because when someone stops arguing and starts collecting evidence, the story is about to move somewhere irreversible. Once the lawsuit was filed, the tone changed completely. This wasn't emotional confrontation anymore. This was paperwork, dates, bank transfers, signed statements, the kind of evidence that doesn't care about charm. Lisa didn't go on a social media rant. She hired attorneys. That alone shifted the balance of power. For months, Daniel had operated in ambiguity, promises, explanations, emotion. Now every claim had to survive documentation, misappropriation, fraud, deception. Those words don't leave much room for storytelling. Daniel's defense came quickly. The business failed, he argued. Investments collapse all the time. Markets change. Deals fall through. Failure is not a crime. That argument sounds reasonable on the surface. Plenty of ventures lose money. Risk is part of entrepreneurship, but risk requires transparency. That's where things began to crack. Financial records didn't match the narrative. Transfers from Lisa's account were traced not to office leases or employee payroll, but to personal expenses, travel, luxury purchases, transactions that lined up closely with the timeline of his relationship with the Nigerian woman. Dates overlapped in ways that were hard to dismiss as coincidence. And then there was the paperwork. Business documents appeared inconsistent, contracts undated, company structures unclear, some agreements lacked verification. The timeline Daniel described in interviews didn't align cleanly with banking activity. Every small discrepancy weakened his credibility. You could see the pressure building. Publicly, Daniel remained confident. Interviews framed him as misunderstood. He positioned himself as a failed entrepreneur targeted by a bitter ex. That framing gained some traction. A portion of fans argued that Lisa knowingly invested and lost, that she was trying to criminalize bad business. But inside the courtroom, confidence doesn't win. Consistency does. Lisa, meanwhile, seemed calmer than anyone expected. Not celebratory, not vengeful, focused. That calmness can be unsettling. It suggested she wasn't chasing revenge. She was pursuing structure. And structure is powerful. As the media frenzy intensified, daily updates fueled debate. Comment sections turned into battleground. Was Daniel reckless or calculated? Was Lisa naive or strategic? The narrative shifted from romance to accountability. Under pressure, people reveal themselves. Daniel's explanations grew more defensive. Minor contradictions started appearing between statements. The same man who once controlled every room now had to answer questions he couldn't redirect. And here's the part that matters most. The case wasn't just about money anymore. It was about intent. Did Daniel knowingly divert funds for personal use? Or did he genuinely believe the venture would recover? Partial answers emerged. The money trail tied directly to non-business spending. Travel records aligned too closely with his secret relationship timeline. That alignment wasn't emotional, it was mathematical. Still, one massive question hung in the air. Would this result in prison time? Or would the court see it as civil misjudgment rather than criminal deception? And even if Lisa won financially, would that repair what was lost? Money can be returned. Time and trust cannot. The tension built slowly as arguments closed. Reporters leaned forward. Fans refreshed feeds obsessively. Daniel maintained a small, tight smile through most of it, as if he believed something would break in his favor at the last second. Then, the judge began reading the verdict, and for the first time, Daniel stopped smiling. When the sentence was finalized, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt heavy. 1 year in prison. An $850,000 financial penalty. Restitution ordered. The courtroom didn't erupt. There was no cinematic gasp, just a slow realization settling over everyone watching. The story that began with ambition and romance had ended in a criminal conviction. Daniel's confidence had carried him for months, through public announcements, through defiant interviews, through cultural controversy. But a legal judgment strips performance away. In that moment, there were no grand speeches left, just consequence. Public reaction was immediate. Some celebrated the verdict as justice served. Others still argued it was an overreach, that failed business ventures shouldn't lead to prison. Debate didn't disappear. It just shifted tone. The loud certainty from Daniel's supporters softened. The narrative of misunderstood entrepreneur became harder to defend once the financial trail was confirmed. And then there was Lisa. She won. That's the clean headline. She recovered her money. The court validated her claims. The system sided with her. But victory didn't look triumphant. It looked quiet, controlled, almost tired. Because this was never only about the $800,000. She didn't just invest money. She invested identity. She positioned herself publicly as a partner in something powerful. She defended him when others questioned him. She tied her future to his promises. Losing that is different from losing cash. That's losing judgment, losing pride, losing months, maybe years of belief. And here's where clarity matters. Was Lisa a pure victim? Not entirely. She ignored warning signs. She transferred a fortune without demanding structure. She defended a narrative that didn't hold up under scrutiny. Vulnerability played a role, but vulnerability isn't a crime. Daniel's actions were different. The evidence showed intentional diversion of funds, personal expenses disguised as business movement, travel aligned with a secret relationship timeline. That isn't reckless optimism, that's strategic deception. He didn't just hope the business would recover. He acted in ways that contradicted the story he was telling. Both made choices. Only one faced prison. The Nigerian relationship, once announced with pride, didn't emerge untouched. Reputation matters. When financial scandal attaches itself to romance, everything becomes suspect. Was that relationship built on truth, or was it also part of a performance? That question lingers. And then we return to the real issue. Why did this escalate so far in the first place? Love without verification becomes leverage. When one partner controls the information and the other controls the capital, imbalance grows quietly. Money without boundaries becomes power, and power, when unchecked, tempts people to believe they can manage multiple realities without consequence. Public humiliation doesn't fade quickly. Even with justice delivered, clips remain, headlines remain, comment sections remain. Court rulings can repair bank accounts, but they don't rewind footage. Lisa walks away financially restored, but emotionally altered. Daniel walks away with a criminal record and a year of his freedom gone. The dream they both described at the beginning was never real, but the damage was. Justice can return money. It can't return time.